doing, and listen. This is not a drill.
What's the most resilient parasite? An idea. A single idea from the human mind can build cities.
Are you ready? It's coming on, brothers and sisters.
Can transform the world and rewrite all the rules. Which is why I have to steal it. He's hiding something, and we need to find out what that is.
We gotta break out of here. Give it a kick. This was not a part of the plan. Wake me up! Wake me up!
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but
Fucking
someday
demon.
someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think.
As the galaxies go whizzing by over the glass domed ceiling. Tell me that doesn't work for you.
Okay, yeah, really fucking hilarious. Just, we'll do everything except for actually fucking turn up the volume. Pardon me, I'm just excited about all this shit. Pardon me.
If it's true, does it change how I live my life? This is something that is not an easy answer because of the magnitude of what we're talking about here. How it will change your life, first of all, when you understand it, is dramatic, to say the least. Will it change you from having to go to your job every day and the things that you typically do every day? No. But when this knowledge becomes more mainstream and these agencies are starting to be held accountable, and you understand that they're all participating in this, not just the United States government, not just NASA, but China, Russia, India, all of them have space programs. They all have the same symbolism. They're all doing the exact same thing to their citizenry. And the first thing you have to understand about this is that the deception goes all the way to the top. And when I say all the way to the top, you have to kind of get rid of the notion that the people at the very highest levels are working together. Why would they do this? Why are they trying to hide the fact that we are on an infinite plane or on a flat earth rather than a ball? Well, if you isolate people into the idea that they're on a blue marble that's in the middle of a universe that is really insignificant, and there's thousands or millions and billions of other worlds and possibly other civilizations, that makes most people think that we are insignificant and that we did actually come about as some sort of an accident. Now, when people believe that, their minds are much more malleable into being given the idea that there is no God and there is no creator. And because of that, that also gives the controllers this fertile soil to build other deceptions on.
Why do you think that Bigfoot has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now? We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
It's about total control, mental, physical, spiritual, every way, shape, and form possible.
You have to remember how big of a conspiracy this is. This isn't talking about just the JFK thing or isn't talking about just 9/11. It's on an umbrella kind of system to where it is the biggest deception that there is. It actually
It's the key to
exposes
everything.
every other deception.
It is.
And nothing else brings down the power of the elite because it really exposes education, science, the economy, television, museums, universities. Think of all the things that have been fooled. I feel worse for the people that are out there building satellites, the people that are out there actually working for these space agencies, the people out there teaching in schools as professors, because they would all come to the conclusion eventually, once this gets out, that they've all been contributing to the lie.
Why do you believe what you believe? Prove it without using NASA or any other space agency, the government or military of any country in the world. Why would I say that? NASA has been proven to be liars time and time again. I could spend a whole weekend here showing you the lies of NASA. How many of you believe your government is 100% honest and trustworthy? And how many of you know the military answers to their government? Okay, so if those three sources are all proven liars, why would you trust them?
Exactly.
Fool me once, right? Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I say, continue to believe pathological liars and you're an idiot.
Amen. Amen.
But that's what we've all done. And so, I look at these stuff, we've all seen the textbooks, we've all seen the videos and movies and all these things, and there's so much of it. Do you know what the budget NASA has? You know how much they get? How much money they get? Have you seen the movie Gravity? Okay. That's made for about $100 million, give or take. And if you saw the movie Gravity, that was pretty impressive. I saw it on IMAX, big screen, like, wow. I mean, I felt like I was with Sandra Bullock flying around in space, freaking out myself. Okay, this is what they're able to do with $100 million. What are you able to do with tens of billions of dollars a year since the 60s?
Now, in my opinion, we're being lied to not only about the shape of the Earth, we're being lied to about the very nature of reality itself. In 1954, Admiral Richard Byrd, a highly decorated naval officer, conducted an interview where he alluded to the idea that there may very well be land beyond the poles.
There is.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
We don't know.
Okay, so Admiral Byrd, I've looked into this quite extensively. This is no joke. This man was killed in very short order from this. They put him in a military psychiatric hospital. I think it was like the 6th or 7th floor. And somehow he decided to open up the window, which is crazy. But it is back then. I guess he didn't have as many jumpers as we do now. But back then, you could actually open up the windows. Well, it was shown that he jumped out the window to his own death after admitting something so crazy right there that he just had admitted. I think it was weeks or maybe a couple of months, but it was very shortly after that interview and him speaking up about what he did and what was going on and what he was trying to enlighten everybody to. That he took a quick swan dive from the 6th or 7th floor to end up being dead, as obviously is shown throughout history. But here's one thing that is really not explained or talked about, is why would somebody with such a high respect throughout all of the military and the government and, the state decide to do a swan dive off that, which is the people that came and investigated it, which is really funny. In their first report, they said there was a scuffle before he went out that window. Well, that ended up getting buried real freaking quick. to everybody that's listening to this that is not a flat earther, I know it's the stupidest, craziest thing you've ever heard in your life. I understand that. But if you start to become a truther, and I'm sure that you are because you are here, when you start to see the deception of the flat earth and what is going on with it, and the psyop that we've been being fed this whole time, when you start to realize it is that one puzzle piece that answers everything.
That's the big problem. We don't know where we are, okay? That's what we're all trying to figure out here. But there is the Antarctic Treaty where, 53 or so nations have signed saying that no one's going to lay claim to Antarctica and that there are massive restrictions for travel there. You can't just get up and go to Antarctica on your own. You have.
And see, that's one of the big things that people don't like, whether they don't like to admit it or they just don't realize it, is you have 50 of the strongest nations in the world all come together saying that we won't do anything there. Supposedly we send scientists, we do this, but you're telling me that not one out of all these years, because we know the industrial complex, they will put bids in and they will not stop trying to figure out how to steal and rape natural resources that are in the earth. Not to say that we don't need them. But there is nothing that will stop these people from making the most money that they can. Can you imagine? And it's already been proven and told that there are innumerable resources there. Whether it's a little continent or you think it's the ice wall, whichever it is. It's been proven that there are so many resources there, it's ridiculous. And at the same time, I followed quite a few channels about a year or so back, probably about a year and a half back, that were talking like, hey, we already have enough money, this or that. Is there anybody that wants to come with us? This, that, we do need donations. I have all sorts of ones. People that ask for donations and people that just ask, does anybody want to go? To actually try to hit the South Pole and either, make it to Antarctica or the rim, whatever we want to call it. These people stayed around for a couple of months and they were gone. And I don't think they just got up and left and went to Antarctica. I think they got shut the fuck down. Because it's already proven it doesn't matter where you leave, if you go south, supposedly you hit Antarctica, really it's ice wall, whatever. There's many old freaking documents of people talking, even old U.S. Navy, back in the day, of trying to go around the dome, and they realized it was a dome, and they were going around in circles. Because if you realize, if you're going to make a clock, you're going to make a compass, you're going to make a map, it's all the same thing. It's a fucking clock. North is right in the middle, where all the hands are attached, and the South Pole is the rim. So, but what is so crazy to me is all these people were talking about this. They had an idea. Some of them were, they came through it through Satan. Some of them came through it because they're just trying to find what's real. But what is insane to me, all these people are gone that were talking about this. None of them are around anymore. Why did it be that somebody would come to have such an understanding and such a following, and they would just disappear off the face of YouTube or off the face of whatever you want to say? That's not how things work. It would work, be like, hey, we finally got enough funding, or hey, we're going, and guess what? We're going to show you guys as we go. Something happened, people. The greatest deception of this world is being promoted right in front of your faces. And, it was funny because I didn't care about politics too much. But then when I came to realize that what we were going through was biblical, I got into politics a little bit much. But I'm going to tell you, the politics and what you're trying to do and try to get into means nothing. It literally means nothing if you don't understand the plane of existence that you live on. It doesn't matter how much we fight for the right person to put in office, this, that, or the other thing. If we cannot open up the minds of our brothers and sisters, there's no meaning behind anything that we're trying to do behind who we elect, because who we elect is not what it is. Satan will run his course, because Satan is a tool of the Father. You know, and I had this hard problem myself, is people really have this big issue. I mean, I remember, you know, the walls of Jericho, this or that, they slaughtered every man, beast, woman, child, creepy crawler thing. You know, when people come to have that type of understanding of God, but they don't actually understand why the wrath of God came down upon them, whether they've lost their way as the human species, or that they have been tainted by the fallen angel's blood, whatever it is. People come to really quickly forget and go against God, and you know, I'm ashamed at myself, because I heard things that I researched in the Bible that made me go, that's no God that I would ever know. No God that I ever know would do that. No. Well, you can think that and virtue signal all you fucking want until you actually get a fucking idea of why God would do something like that. Then it changes everything. I'm telling you, the one puzzle piece that literally kills all lies is this puzzle piece, Flat Earth. And he's going to do a pretty good job explaining that. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Sorry I can't go live. I must have been too real.
You have to have a tour guide with you, and there are only certain entry points, and there are limits on where you can go search.
Personally, I think the unconquered South Face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall place, but that's never stopped me before. To stand on top of the wall and piss off the edge of the world.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Yeah.
All the difference.
That's their favorite line. Got a lot of people, what difference does it make? You can't figure out what difference it makes? If you can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world have lying to you over and over your whole life, if you can't figure out that someone lying to you is trying to control you. Suppressing of information, of knowledge, is control. Deception of information and knowledge is a form of control. So what difference does it make? It makes a big difference, because once they start omitting information or lying about information about where you live, they're doing it to control you. Period. Why am I having to explain this to critical thinkers in the truth movement?
Amen.
The way you control billions of people is to keep them divided and fighting each other. Flat Earth is not a psyop. Flat Earth destroys the psyop. Every psyop that's been used to control us for as long as they've known about it. So this system has been in power and control for hundreds of years, ever since they convinced the rest of the world that they didn't know where they lived. It created this fantastical scenario to make people feel insignificant and to follow those that appear to know better. Why is the flat earth so important? Because it shows the deception. And if everybody would just come together and demand answers, they would be in checkmate. They would not know what to do.
Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I believe that's why we have so many who are indoctrinated to still believe and fight so hard for the heliocentric model. The reason being because we've been taught the globe model since before we had the ability to think for ourselves. Think about that. Before you could think for yourself, before you could form rational thought, you've been taught that you live on a spinning ball, although your five senses tell you something totally different. Our senses tell us that the earth is flat and stationary, that the sun and moon and the stars rotate above us just as we see, that they make their annual cycles in such a way that we can calculate days, months, and years of the passage of time, just like in Scripture. The earth in itself works like a well-designed timepiece, and we all know that a timepiece that we can think of has a
clock,
designer.
man. We are the clock.
If
Nobody
the
gets
lie
that.
is to hide the existence of that designer. What if they're lying to us about this because they're hiding God?
They are hiding God, man.
Dad, what's wrong with the telly?
We are scientists.
Liars.
Are politicians. We are the experts. We are your leaders. We rule over you. Do not question if there is a God, because we tell you there is no God.
Yes, you lie.
All you are is simply a freak of nature. You are an animal. You evolved by chance. Nothing about you is special. Nothing about you is real. All you are is simply a spectacle of a freak of nature. The earth is not the center of the universe.
Even though it resets
the center
every
of the Milky Way galaxy which we created.
God, I'm so just fucking weird.
It is not even the center of the heliocentric model which we have presented to you. We are the scientists. We are the experts. We know what's best for you.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
They have us. They control us. They are our masters.
The movement was begun 8 months ago by a small group of scientists who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent through
Space is fake. It's a broken off civilization that is our government that has technology that we can never explain. And what gave that to them was fallen angels. There is nothing new under the sun, my brothers and sisters. Nothing new under the sun. We are coming to be in the time of Noah. Has man not become to just be so vain about his own self? Has humanity not come to the point to where they think a selfie 100 times a day, some people even 1,000 times a day taking selfies? We have become to be so vain. We are in the time of Noah. We have become to the great extension of knowledge. And what have we done with it? Allowed it to dumb us down. That's the saddest part. We've lost our humanity of what we are and who we're supposed to be, because we have fucking lost our understanding of the plane of existence that we live on. And I hate it when people, well, what does it matter? It matters everything. Alright, let's shut up. Pay attention. I love you all. Unless I get it figured out and taken care of, 3 months. Tomorrow I'm going to see if my backup channel will be able to go live. That's to be seen. I will let you guys know. Making a video right now.
Scientism exposed.
It might come to a surprise to most people that one of the most dangerous worldviews one can hold is scientism. The failing of science is not really about the scientific method. It is about a largely unrecognized epistemology that developed as a result of the successes of science. This faulty epistemology can be called scientism, and we should make a sharp distinction between science and scientism.
Just like every other ism,
is the knowledge acquired by that method. The scientific method involves hypothesizing, experimenting, observing, and drawing conclusions. Central to the method of science is that no theory is ever
here's the
considered
thing is, maybe this is just me. Maybe I might have been the last little bit of, whatever you might want to call it. But I do remember as a kid, when you're talking about science, the only way to prove a hypothesis is that you can do something and then you can recreate it and it will be the same thing. Because if you do an experiment and then you go to recreate it and you go to recreate it and you go to recreate it and you get every single time a different understanding or a different number or whatever you're experimenting with. See, it's not really science, and it's not really an experiment that was a pass if every single time you get a different number or you get a different thing. But what our scientists do is they make the number what they want so they can make the experiment how they want and take whatever they want out of it to make it what they want it to say. And that's where we get stuck with that. You know, as kids, we're taught all these things. I mean, the theory of relativity, the theory of gravity, the theory of evolution, all these things are theories. But when you start to look at what everything that you've been taught, the theory that it is, and I know a lot of you've realized almost everything you've ever been taught is a lie. So trust me, this is the big one. This is the big one. Everything you've ever been taught is a lie. So why is it a big jump to move to this? I mean, people really think that, you know, something smaller than an atom or the size of an atom blew up and made everything. I mean, even when they tell you momentum, pressure, force, you cannot have a positive force towards something without it having a negative force back. And that's not always positive and negative, but that's really what it is. But even their pathetic science will tell you that something cannot come from nothing. I mean, even in the bullshit science that they tell you that we learn, it literally admits that, no pressure, no force, no nothing. Something cannot come from nothing. And at the same time, they tell us that there was nothing and something blew up and made everything. It makes no sense. It makes a lot more sense that somebody separated the waters from the waters and gave us a plane of existence to live on. And that is the funniest thing, like mathematicians and all that. People that are mathematically inclined, which I am. That was the one thing. I loved history, and math was easy. Everything else sucked. But when you come across that, it is really funny because you can take some of the smartest mathematicians throughout the ages and right now, and you give them the calculation of even what they say, of being able to evolve DNA, this, that, the other thing. It is like dropping an encyclopedia 10,000 feet up through helicopter blades and it falling back down to the ground perfectly in place for the ability and the rhyme and the reason of what they say for our DNA to have mutated and come to be what we are. And this is in front of our faces, but nobody will listen. I love you guys. I'm sorry I can't go live. It is what it is. I'm trying to figure it out. No guarantees. I'm trying to move to my backup channel. I really haven't done much on it, so there's 5 subscribers on that. Yeah. So it told me it takes 24 hours to decide or, engage me being able to go live on that one. So if it allows me to go live on that one, I will 100% definitely let you guys know. But most likely what it's going to do, it's going to be like, oh, you don't have 100 subscribers, so you can't go live. So if that's what it ends up saying tomorrow, I will be making videos trying to get people to go subscribe to that so that I can go live. Because I really enjoyed my live feed last night. I had, I know who you guys know who you are, but I just had some really great people on, and it's just really sad because, like, I have people that have called in that I know that you guys are going through shit or you're trying to find your own truth and this and that, and I know that you guys said, it's so nice to have somebody that actually cares and wants to listen and has some, good feedback. And I've been robbed from that because of this stupid ass whatever it is. So, more than anything, I just want to apologize because me helping people out and people telling me that it helps them out is like something that feeds me. Whether it feeds my ego, whether it feeds whatever, I don't know, but it feeds my going. It feeds my care. It feeds my understanding of trying to be there for you guys and knowing that there are people that it's like, I needed to say this, I needed to talk about this, and you're here to talk about it and you care. Like, that means so much to me, and that's why I'm pretty damn pissed off about them freaking going after my live feed. And I knew that they would, and I knew why, but I guess even though I knew and I understood that it was probably coming, it fucking hit me and pissed it just pissed me off. Alright.
Final. All theories are subject to scrutiny and re-examination, and it is assumed that all will eventually be proven false by a more comprehensive theory. Scientism, on the other hand, is the belief that the methods of science are superior to any and all other methods of determining truth. Science believes things because they have been observed to be true.
Science is Satanism. That's what science is. Science is Satanism.
Most of us are guilty of scientism to some extent. We hear about things having been scientifically proven and we assume that means they must be true. We didn't do the experiments. We didn't look up the results.
Exactly.
We didn't analyze the data. We simply assumed that if the science proved it, it must be true.
Yep.
This epistemological theory is often called Occam's razor, and it states that wherever there is two theories that
fish
claim
grew
the
feet
same observation,
and lungs.
the one that requires the least number of assumptions is true. In other words, when looking for truth, we should always look for the simplest explanation possible. And when it comes to biblical interpretation,
it's all
if the
simple.
plain sense makes sense, seek no other sense.
Exactly.
As humanity emerged from the Middle Ages, a battle began to rage.
God versus
between the
Satan.
church,
Not science.
intellectuals,
Satan.
and enlightenment. That struggle continues today, even though it had seemed for a time that the debate was over and that the science was settled.
Let it go.
We will restore science to its rightful place and wield technology's wonders.
Scientists are in agreement. Scripture and science are not reconcilable.
They are,
What's
actually
commonly
are.
known among Christians, it seems, is that the Bible agrees with this assessment. While the world
Okay, see, here's there, and I'm sure he's gonna get into this. I'm sorry, I haven't even watched this video, but I'm sure what he's gonna get into and what he's gonna say is, and he already said that science and God's word, the Bible, whatever, they're not compatible. 100% they're not compatible. If the science that you believe in is the fake science that you've been taught since you were 5, if you've never taken your own time to actually look into things and find things out, no, it doesn't match up. But when you've taken actually the time to understand what this reality, what this world is, what this plane of existence is that we live on, the God of this world is Satan. That's a good place to start, good place to understand. But once you've come to understand what they've done to us and what it truly is, and you start to actually have your understandings that you come to find, your truths that you come to find, you realize that everything that the damn Bible said, did I say damn? Sorry, Father, if I did. You come to realize that everything that the Bible has said and told you lines up with all the facts of real truth that you found. Because if you found any real truth in this world, I can promise you that you can lead it back to the Bible and it will unravel and give everything substance to what you're talking about and what you're learned.
Says that in Scripture in error, God would beg to differ. The issue is that science is no longer science. True science is simply the scientific method or empirical data. What is commonly called science these days is actually just the religion of the world, full of fabrication and an anti-God agenda. The problem for the church today is that many Christians, fearing man rather than God, have bought into much of the counter-biblical doctrines of scientism. We do stand with the Bible on some issues, but only if we feel the safety of numbers. Some Christians only seem to need the support of other Christians, while others require the approval of the world. What God calls us to, however, is having absolutely no fear of man whatsoever and trusting the absolute authority of God's word. God cannot lie.
It's not that God can't lie. God has no reason to
When
lie.
Scripture and science conflict, the shortest road to truth is believing Scripture and investigating the claims of science. The evidence will always be there for anyone who will look objectively. It's when we allow the world to provide the lens through which we look that we lose our perception.
Exposing scientism for what it is, you have science and then you have non-science. And nowadays you have a lot of stuff that's masquerading as science, and there's a force behind that.
Science is nothing
There
but
is
Satanism.
an adversary
Okay.
that we have in this creation.
100%. And look,
that
I gotta tell you guys, look, this new age movement that is, it's coming from 100 different directions. I'm pretty sure we all know about it. But this new age movement of what they're doing and trying to get you to open up your third eye, this, that, the other thing, it is nothing but Satanism. Scientism is Satanism. That's what it is. They're literally trying to get you to sell your soul and mark yourself without even recognizing it or realizing it. It's sickening.
To lie about everything.
It makes me realize that what the Bible warns us about, the deceiver.
Exactly. Preach it, brother.
The deceiver is a lot more powerful than we thought. I think we've really underestimated what we've been warned about.
To prove all things, I really think today, especially today, we need to go as deep as we possibly can, because we have the tools we have today, and we're so much removed from the original languages of the Bible. Now, one of the last things I ever thought I would come to question would be science, because I always consider myself a scientist because of my constant involvement in meteorology and any kind of earth science at all always just fascinated me. I honestly have to say that I did not come to the realization that science was wrong from my studies of the Bible, and I'm actually kind of ashamed of that. I should have actually done the study, proven all things, to see if science was correct with that.
Me too.
Because now that I was awakened to the fact...
I'm not trying to interrupt him. I'm not sure where he's going with it, but I have a pretty good idea. See, that is the saddest thing is... I know I'm saying a lot, right? That we've come to the understanding or the realization that science told us this. So then that disproves what knowledge or what, foundations and what pillars, that we that we rested upon to be false, because the scientism has told us that we were wrong and the Bible is wrong. That's an old book. It's stupid. It's wrong. That is the farthest thing from the truth. I understand man has rewritten the Bible. I understand through multiple languages. I mean, Jesus Christ is really Yeshua. But, it's the word is still there for the most part. But at the same time, there has been misunderstandings. Because you got to understand, most people are very fluent in two languages back then. But usually people were fluent in one language, and they learned the other language through a book. They didn't learn it of the times of when it was said or when it was written. They did not. And so most of these people that were translating these things, the only thing that they had was what they had been told or what they had learned. And so a lot of these translations have been mixed up. I think maybe I'll do a short video after this and try to explain some of that, just like, you can go back to when, Ham came in and saw his father's nakedness. People sit there trying to understand what that means. And they're like, well, why would he be so angry? Fucking, sorry. It was Noah that got drunk, and then he's mad at his son Ham that came in and, saw his drunkenness and went in, told his brothers of it. If you come to understand what the language meant back in those days of saying your father's nakedness, you'll understand what he really did. And what he really did was try to usurp his own father. I'll try to get on that my short video. Sorry.
Science was wrong about that, and that the Bible contradicted what science was saying. I found many other things in the Bible that are actually contrary to what we've been taught.
I see scientism as a spiritual agenda. I see it as a spiritual deception. It's something that has been put in place and masqueraded as fact and as reality, when in fact most of the things that are paraded today are theories of men.
The deception will pull you any direction, and this is where scientism is. I think this is the whole purpose of scientism. I think there are dark forces behind it, trying to pull people into what they think is logic, and it's really speculation. It's really theory. It's not as concrete as everybody thinks it is. And like I said, I think evolution has been thoroughly disproven. My focus is on cosmology. That's where I've kind of come out
and that's what led me back to the Bible.
Me too.
Science is great. Scientism, however, is a religion, is a belief system, is an agenda set.
I loved history. And for many years of me learning every piece of history that I could find, for many years before I was awakened, I guess you could say it was the beginning of me being awakened and I didn't even know. But I remember grabbing every piece of history that I could find and that I could learn. And when I started to think about it, you know, and I'm talking before I actually opened my eyes to the first real huge deception. But for years before that, there was something inside of me that was always like, this does not add up mathematically. Like I said, I'm good at math. This does not add up mathematically. Why would this happen for this to happen and this to happen, if this is just some kind of coincidence? And this is even before I knew about the New World Order, before I knew about the shadow government, before I knew about any of these things. There was something in the back of my head for quite a while that was just like, this does not add up. Because like I said, I'm good at math, this, that, I loved history, all that, And I was very good at for what I thought, at taking my knowledge or my understanding or my numbers and being able to bang out the truth. And that worked very well for a lot of things, for the lies that I thought were truth, putting it to what they wanted my figure to come out to be. But when I started to realize a little bit more and think about it a little bit more deeply about many things, things started not to add up. I mean, here's one of the things that I like to tell people, especially right now, it's a good time of year, is, you know, especially if, you know, people that, oh, the earth isn't flat, you're fucking crazy. Then you just ask them, like, well, you know the heliocentric model, you know, or, you know the globe model, this, blah, 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 you know that, whatever. And you just ask them, and you're like, so, you know, the reason that there's a crescent in the moon, even though the moon is always changing, whatever, is because that the sun that you can see has gone over the curvature, and all of a sudden, the only light that is hitting the moon that is giving it that crescent moon, full moon, whatever it is at that night, is because it is the light from the sun is still around that corner, and it's hitting that moon that is so far away, this, that, the other freaking thing, whatever they want to say. But it's hitting this moon, and that's what gives you the crescent and the changing of the seasons. Which right there, that should almost give anybody pause. But what they like to try to do is act like they're really smart, and their science and their numbers are so hard to actually, you know, accumulate together to actually find your own rhyme and reason and understanding of what's going on. Which is the farthest thing from the point. Because it's all a lie. They want you to think that it's so crazy and so hard you couldn't figure it out. Even the people that study this, 90% of the people that study and do all of this research and all this stuff about stars and this and that, they don't even know that they are a part of a propaganda machine. Because they have been fed the lies. No matter how much smart... You gotta understand, they tell these people that they're smart. They give them the understanding of what they say it is, and these people are able to regurgitate it and write it down on a test and get a good score. They're considered great scientists. It's sad. So back to the moon thing. Okay. So for this month, last month, and all the time, not all the time, but, you know, pretty much frequently, I am able, sorry about that, hold on 2 seconds. I am able to see a crescent moon in the sky, a full moon in the sky. No difference, doesn't matter. That full moon is in the sky, that crescent moon is in the sky. And the crazy thing is, the sun is in the middle of the sky too. So if the sun has nowhere gone down past the curvature of the earth that they say that there is. And I see a crescent moon when I have a full sun out. That makes no sense. And then on top of that, if you just want to be like, well, it could be this, it could be that. Well, no, it's the same thing every day. And then when you have that full moon that is out there while the sun is in the top of the sky, you're like, okay, that makes sense. That's only one day out of the whole month. You know, you might have 2 to 3 days before the full moon, 2 to 3 days after the full moon. It's a little bit iffy. You give it what it is. But then when you start seeing the crescent moon, especially more than a half a crescent moon in the damn sky, and you have a sun that is in the middle of the fucking sky, and you have a crescent moon. That's weird. And I'm talking about a sun that has got, you know, sometimes got anywhere from 5 to 2 hours before it's even going over or thinking of even getting close to the horizon to where it would be blocking anything out. But no, there isn't. So, you know, that was one of my big deceptions right there that I looked into when I was looking at the flat earth. Because, you know, I did my best to actually try to go about it as independent as I could. And I really did, because most things, when I tried to debunk it, I didn't try to go at it independent. And I looked at this and I thought it was the most stupid thing that I ever fucking heard in my life. And that's when I was like, if you're really going to try to do it, and I've never, like, thought this out, you're going to have to be a little bit independent here and act like you know nothing. Or, you know, of course you know what you know, but you're going to come and look at it and not have an opinion until you finish a couple of videos or take a little bit of time to look at this. And, I mean, right off of the bat, I had my damn biases, I had this, I had that, and by the time I got done with the first damn video, I was like, man, this doesn't make sense, because so much of what these people have just said actually contradicts not everything, well, yeah, pretty much everything, but a lot of conceptions and understandings that I thought that I'd figured out and that I knew. And then when I started going back about them with my mathematical head, I was realizing it was things that I never truly looked into enough. And even though I'm mathematically inclined to do that, I did not, about so many things. And then I started going about it with a calculated understanding of what I was taught and what was fact that I could see for myself and find out and acknowledge and for myself. It's nuts. Alright, well, let's get this finished up. I'm sorry, guys.
Set up to destroy the credibility of the Word of God. It's set up to destroy the credibility of God in people's minds. It's to create doubt. Even right back from Genesis, at the very beginning,
Come on.
was trying to plant doubt into Adam and Eve.
Alright, I know
Did
I
God
suck,
really
guys.
say this? Did God say that?
Love you guys, though.
And I think that when we read in the Bible, it's like, did God really mean that? Did he mean that all the stars are going to fall to the earth? Did he mean that the sun moves? No, we've been taught that it's the earth that moves. Well, maybe that's just the way that they thought it was. They looked at it and they were...
Sorry. Yeah, no, the stars are going to fall from the heaven. They're not asteroids. They're not meteors. They're not planets. They're not stars. Well, stars is what you would know. They are coming back. When I take a look with my telescope or my PX900 camera, I'll put down a couple videos about it. I know I need to do some more. And you zoom in on these supposed stars and these supposed planets, and they look like a Faraday cage. If you have any idea what that looks like, I'm sure most of you do. that is changing colors and bouncing around. And I don't mean like jumping like people talk about UFOs, but I mean they're wiggling and they're pulsating. And that's not anything that I've ever seen off of NASA's fake CGI photos that they give us. You're being lied to, my brothers and sisters. I love you all. Please open your eyes if you have not yet.
Ignorant back then. Sadly, we're playing too loosely with the Word of God. You know, you've heard it said that the Bible's not a science book, but when it discusses matters of science, it's accurate. Or the Bible's not a history book, but when it discusses matters of history, it's accurate.
Exactly.
The problem is here we're reducing the Bible to just literature or to a book. It's not a book. It's not a science book. It's not a history book. It's the Word of God.
Amen.
We shouldn't play loosely with it. We should take God on His Word.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And it came to pass that the earth was formless and void, and the Creator moved upon the face of the waters. Suddenly, God spoke into the darkness. Let there be light. It was not as many modern men suppose. The Creator did not make use of evolution. He created all things by simply speaking them into existence. In 6 24-hour days, God made plants and animals to populate the earth.
Scientism and evolution.
Scientism has its roots in the Big Bang cosmology and evolutionary thought. If humans have evolved by a material, purposeless process, then there is no basis for believing in a God who created us and revealed moral truths, or imposing those moral views in any area of life. Using false science as a weapon, Satan has been able to shoot down the credibility and authority of the Bible. The standard assumption is that science is objective knowledge, while religion is an expression of subjective need. Religion, therefore, must subordinate its claims about the world to whatever science decrees. Scientism assumes that science is the controlling reality about life, so anything that can be validated scientifically ought to be done. Other things are subjective fantasy.
But it's always
like
fake
love,
science.
beauty,
Not
good,
always, but most.
evil, conscience, and ethics. Science, which originally simply meant the study of the natural world, has, as you become conflicted with scientific naturalism, materialism, and a philosophy that the natural world is all that exists. Humans are reduced to objects that can be inspected, experimented on, and ultimately controlled. In 1922, G.K. Chesterton warned that scientism had become a creed taking over our institutions. A system of thought.
I just gotta say this. I'm sorry. We're almost at an hour, and I think I'm gonna cap it off about an hour. So the one thing that I want to say to you, if you haven't figured this out, or if you're, coming across somebody that is like, well, Darwin, this, that, freaking, evolution, evolution has been proven by science. But then if you ask somebody, you're like, wait, you mean the theory of evolution? Like, it's not a theory. And then you ask them, you tell them, you can look it up. It actually is. Oh, this is pissing me off. You ask them, is this... Oh, has this frozen? It has it not? Yes, it has. Well, it's frozen anyway, so who cares? So, you ask them, okay, your theory of evolution.
But I believe that
and they're just like, no, it's not a theory, it's scientifically proven. And you're like, no, look it up, it's just a theory. And then you ask them, do you understand what the theory of evolution was based off of? What Darwin did from, it was 2 or 3 islands. He realized that there were different birds on each of the islands. So, as his thought, he figured there was one bird that was on all of the islands in the beginning. But then all of a sudden, they ended up evolving and changing because of the islands that they were on, this, that, the other thing. I mean, I need to look at it a little bit more, and so should you, before you start cracking people over the head. But the basics of it is that he looked at some freaking birds that were from different islands while they were there for a couple weeks or a month or so. And that is the basis, seriously, that is the basis of evolution. Right there. That is the whole basis of evolution right there. That start right there was what skyrocketed everything that is in your textbook and everything else of our evolution. And that, I mean, that is just complete insanity. I mean, that's just like Copernicus, what was it, over 500 years ago, put a stake in the sand and then had his buddy, 200 miles away, put a stake in the sand. And somehow they knew, because them being 200 miles apart at the same time, the shadow that they saw was literally that proved that the earth was round and that we were spinning around the sun. Well, you're talking about 500 years ago, hundreds upon hundreds of years before anybody could even go up in a balloon, let alone learn how to fly. So do you think if Satan, the god of this world, has already gotten that great deception upon you, do you really think that there's anything that he can't deceive you about? I mean, seriously. If he's got that deception on you, and you think you came from something smaller than the atom that blew up into everything, and you think you're spinning around on a wet ball rocket, and you think you came from a damn monkey, how can he not make you believe everything and anything? And I think that is one of the things that is going on right now, because I really think we're all already supposed to have burned and been, effed. And I think something happened. I think a change came. Just like when God, came, he's like, show me, 20 righteous men in Sodom or Gomorrah, whichever it was. I apologize for not remembering, but it's pretty much the same. Show me 10 righteous or 20 righteous men. Okay, show me 10, show me 5. And he could not do that. Well, that's not really where we are as Americans. And I think this is why they get away and they're able to do what they're able to do, the demons that control this world, is there is so much of this country and this world that is so good, and I ain't saying nobody's perfect, but that actually has a righteous soul that would die for his community, for his family, for this, for that, whatever it is. There is so much of that is, stuck right inside of us, that no matter what our government does, destroying this world and doing what it's doing, I think God in his own way has given us a reprieve. I am not saying his judgment is not coming, because his judgment is coming, and we fucking deserve it. Pardon my French. It is insanity that is inside of our heads that we've allowed ourselves to forget that we actually are somewhat special, and somewhat is actually a cop-out. We are special, and we're here for a reason. But we've been bred and brainwashed that we are insignificant. And this is where we are stuck. And this is what we are dealing with that has destroyed our whole nature of what we're supposed to be and who we are. Alright, well, you know what? I love you all.